Today on Dr. Phil.
My dad sending money to a woman in Mexico that he had an affair with.
He steals from family, friends, and strangers.
Nearly $2 million.
She had to have a lung transplant.
You paid for the lung. So she just showed up to a clinic with a lung in an igloo cooler, said, I'm here to get a transplant. She's had brain cancer 5 times.
7 times.
You think maybe she's lied to you? Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
I try to be an emotional compass and point you in the right direction.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you.
Well, death threats from Mexican businessmen, black market organs for sale, tens of thousands of dollars in extortion money paid, and more than 100 trips back and forth to Mexico. It's an unbelievable story that has this sweet-looking grandpa trapped in what his daughters believe is an outrageous international scam. So who's the alleged mastermind behind this multi-million-dollar mystery? Well, according to Maurice's daughters, it's his former Mexican mistress. Take a look.
My dad sending money to a woman in Mexico that he had an affair with. He has sent her over $1.5 million.
My dad is obsessed with Josefina.
An extreme obsession.
He met her at a hotel that he was staying at.
She was the maid there. It just blows my mind.
I have never met her. I have never spoken with her.
My dad said that because he only had sex with her twice, it is not an affair.
We believe Josefina is conning our dad, absolutely.
Josefina has told my father many times that she's dying.
I believe Josefina is truly sick. She may not live. It's a matter of life and death.
So she started by asking my dad for money for a lung transplant. Then the lung apparently didn't take. Then she stored that lung to then resell it to someone else. That's totally black market. So clearly she's a criminal.
The lung story is preposterous. We have told my father how it's not even medically possible.
Then she traded that lung to get ownership of a ranch.
She's told my dad that she's eventually gonna sell and then pay him back.
She promised a huge payout.
There's no doubt in my mind that she's telling me the truth.
This whole situation is just shocking and bizarre.
My dad believes that he is saving Josefina's life.
My dad hasn't seen her for at least 13 years.
My dad hasn't even spoken to a doctor or seen her medical bills.
She hooked him somehow.
I think she is holding something over him.
I look at her as the scum of the earth.
This awful woman that just is mocking my father.
I want Josefina out of his life.
She's ruined his life. She's ruined our lives.
This woman has torn our family apart.
But now Maurice's daughters insist their father has gone from being conned to being a con man himself. They say he's lying, stealing, and taking money from innocent people to give to this former lover.
My father has preyed on a lot of innocent people.
His whole life is consumed by getting this woman money.
My dad would tell them that he needed the money to help this dying woman in Mexico.
He just finds those perfect victims.
My father is a manipulator.
He's a thief. My dad is financially ruined so many people's lives.
Destroyed some marriages, torn families apart.
I talked to a man my dad owed $20,000 to. He had taken out a personal loan. And his wife has Alzheimer's. He said that he doesn't have money to pay for her medical care.
There was one family from church that gave my dad their entire life savings.
Someone from my sister's church confronted her and said, if I met your dad in a back alley, I can't promise what would happen to him. And at least 10 people had confessed to him that they had given him money as well.
He's violated such an intimate trust there.
I feel terrible when I hear the stories. I wish I had the money to pay these people back.
I don't want him to hurt one more person.
Well, this is just a hell of a mess, right? Yeah, well, it gets worse. Because this dad has 7 children, and they claim that he has also victimized them.
My dad doesn't just prey on innocent people. He has preyed upon his own family.
He took money from me and each of my sisters.
One of my sisters gave my dad $40,000. He called her and said that literally if that money was not wired to him immediately, that he would be killed.
He has gone to a few of my sisters telling them I'll be arrested or some men in Mexico are gonna come after me.
I had a business with my sister and my dad. My dad was able to steal $200,000.
Because my name was on the business and my sister's name was on the business, we went down with him.
He's destroyed their credit. They lost their homes, they lost their cars.
I went into a deep, dark depression. It's a place you kind of never want to go.
At the time, it was heartbreaking. It was the greatest betrayal.
Now my mom is packing up her home because my parents' house is in foreclosure. Just need a minute. My dad has broken our family.
My dad has no shame.
He literally does not care about any of us.
Okay, you were in business together.
Yeah, I probably suffered the most financially, yeah.
Just bottom line, how much do you think he stole from you, just straight up?
That I know of is about $200,000. You know, we lost a house, lost a car.
Take me through the moment that you realized my father has stolen my money and given it to some woman in Mexico to the point that I am losing my home. That's the moment I want to go through.
Yeah, I mean,
what
I like rage and anger, and how could you possibly do this and think it was okay? But the thing is, you can't, there was no reasoning.
And you've not spoken to him in 2 years.
Right. People were coming to us saying he owed them money. We didn't know what it was about. And we knew there was just more to the story. And so we kind of stormed into his house and told him it's time to come clean. He came clean about some of it, as much as he was willing to, and told us about, you know, this woman, this money that he'd given to her. That was the point when I said, you know what, this is it. That was 2 years ago, and that was the last time I spoke to my father.
Karina, you had his phone for a few days. Mm-hmm. What happened when you had his phone?
All day long, there's phone calls, text messages, asking where's my money?
Which one of you got the death threat against your father for $40,000?
She's not here.
She's not here. And he actually called her and told her that she didn't personally get the death threat, but he called her and told her.
Then he'll have this fear in his eyes,
yeah,
like,
and you just,
if I don't get this money, something bad is going to happen to me, you know,
yeah.
and you don't want to fall for it, but you don't want your dad to be killed.
Right.
I mean, he pulls out all the stops.
By the way, he's married to your mother.
Right.
And she's now losing her house.
Right.
Because he's giving money to this woman.
Right.
Next 19 years of secrets, 2 Mexican mistresses, and nearly $2 million just handed away. Why did Maurice's wife continue to turn a blind eye to her husband's secret life south of the border? Well, I'm going to ask her. She's here. We're going to add her to the conversation after the break.
He has become a pathological liar. He is dishonest to the very core. The day that I found out that my husband Maurice had an affair with this woman, my whole world was turned upside down. She has conned him. How anybody can be at death's door for 13 years. She is such a medical miracle.
And later, you believe this woman just showed up at a clinic with a lung in an igloo cooler or something and said, I need a lung transplant, and I got the lung.
That's basically what happened.
I think my mom looked the other way for many years as far as my dad's behavior.
My mother is enabling him by turning a blind eye.
My mom tends to bury her head in the sand and pretend that nothing bad is happening.
We had an intervention a couple years ago and told my mom, if you don't leave him, then we will walk away from you for a while.
I honestly don't know why she has stayed.
Well, secret phone calls in Spanish and hundreds of trips over the border. Maurice's double life has his 7 daughters convinced that a bizarre scam concocted by his former mistress has turned their father into a con man and their mother into his protector and enabler. Now, before we speak with the matriarch of this beautiful family, let's hear what she has to say about her partner of nearly 50 years.
My husband Maurice has torn apart my family. My children have just been absolutely devastated. He has used them over and over. My daughters all feel like they've lost their father. Their hearts have been broken. He has become a pathological liar. He is dishonest to the very core of his being. That's really hard and sad for me to say that. My utilities have been turned off. My internet gets turned off. Frequently, my phone gets turned off. The day that I found out that he had an affair with this woman, my whole world was turned upside down and inside out. I felt worthless. I felt like a failure. This is someone I trusted with my entire life. I have absolutely no doubt she has conned him. If I saw her, I probably would scratch her eyes out. How anybody can be at death's door for 13 years. She is such a medical miracle. If she's really ill, let her die.
I'm glad to meet you, and I'm really sorry for the circumstance. I'm just so sorry. I hate it for you. This has been going on for 19 years, right? You now know.
Apparently,
Well,
yeah.
you did know that then, of course, but you know it now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
Devastated, angry at myself, angry at my husband, at this woman.
Along the way, he also had another woman, right?
Yes.
And that's when you found out that he has a daughter.
Yes.
Y'all have a half-sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Mexico. Did you know about that at all? Were you?
Not until 2 years ago.
You had to be shocked.
Oh, yes, I was.
What did you say to him when you found out he was shipping money off to this woman? Let's go back to the other woman, the one that's got the revolving lungs. And what did he tell you about it?
She had to have a lung transplant.
Okay, so she got a lung.
Yes.
And where'd she get the lung?
And he paid for it. I'm assuming...
He bought her a lung.
On the black market, I'm assuming.
It didn't take.
So they took it out and they put in another lung.
Okay.
But they kept the first one.
Where did they keep it?
In some kind of machine. In Mexico, they have the ability to keep organs alive.
That's what we're told.
And so then that lung was put into another woman, and her husband paid for it with a ranch.
So it's like a swap meet.
Yes.
So we'll give you a ranch for this lung.
Yeah.
But it worked for the second woman.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but now, so she has the ranch, so they need to sell the ranch to pay for the lung.
Right.
You know what's wrong with you people? Seriously, you know what's wrong with you people?
What?
Absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you people. That's the problem.
Right.
You, all five of you, are normal, healthy, loving, caring, adjusted people. Your mind can't go to the places that sick, demented people's mind go, so it's hard to see that coming. Because your mother, you've been put out of your house because of this. You're now going to be put out of your house, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what are you going to do?
Well, I'm going to have to go find a job in a small apartment and go on with life.
And kind of start over making your own
Yes.
way. Let's take a break. Next, trading a lung for a ranch, selling organs on the black market, and being held hostage in a south-of-the-border hospital. Maurice insists that his former mistress, Josefina, is on death's door. Apparently for a long time, she's been on death's door. He says he needed all of the money he took from friends, family, and even a stranger at a gas station in order to save her life. Boy, do I have some questions for dear old Dad. Well, he's here, and we're going to meet him next. We'll add him to the conversation right after the break. So she just showed up lung in hand to a clinic, said, I'm here to get a transplant, and I've got my lung with me. And later,
She doesn't have money, so she's not actually in a hospital room.
well, she doesn't need it. She can
I
get
know,
health
I'm
care.
just saying,
They
she's
have
on like the
universal
back
health care.
patio.
Is that outdoors?
Yeah, that's outdoors.
She's just sleeping next to the hospital. It just rolls downhill. Nearly $2 million gone and multiple families desperate for answers and their hard-earned money back. Where did all the money go? Now, to my guest, Maurice's former mistress in Mexico, who his family believes is conning their dad into believing that she is dying, and her only hope of survival is him paying for the life-saving medical care she needs. Now, Maurice disagrees and insists that she is sick and he will get his money back. Take a look.
I met Josefina nearly 18 years ago in Mexico. I had a 3-month affair with her. I'd already had an affair with another woman. I didn't think it was a big deal. 3 or 4 months after I came back to the United States, she told me that she had lung cancer. She said she needed a transplant. That's how it all started. I've been sending her money to keep her alive. I haven't seen her in 13 years. She promised that she would return all my money. I borrowed my money from my children. I said I was going to pay them back with interest. I did steal $200,000 from my daughter, Delaney. Josefina needs $675 to get out of the clinic. If she could just get out, she would reimburse everybody. It'd be foolish to stop now.
Now, before we add Maurice to the conversation, I wanted to ask all of you at home on Twitter if you believe Maurice is being taken advantage of. Tweet hashtag Dr. Phil yes or hashtag Dr. Phil no. And if you want to join today's conversation, just tweet hashtag Dr. Phil, hashtag money to Mistrs, and you can join this conversation. So Maurice, come on out. Maurice, Dr. Phil.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, sir. Have a seat if you would.
Thank you.
Maurice, I'll just jump right into it. I've been here talking with 4 of your beautiful daughters and your wife, Linda. They feel lied to, they feel betrayed, that you have stolen money from them to the point that she's lost her home, she's losing her home. Do you deny that, or is that true?
I think that happened.
I want to see if I understand the timeline of this right. So in 1996, Maurice and Josefina meet and you begin a 3-month affair in Mexico. And in 2000, Josefina calls Maurice and says she has lung cancer and needs a transplant. Why call you 4 years later and say, I need a lung transplant?
Well, because she didn't have anybody to go to.
Where'd you get the lung?
She went down to Veracruz to receive that lung, and
on the black market?
Yes.
So you paid for acquiring the lung. So she just showed up lung in hand to a clinic, said, I'm here to get a transplant, and I've got my lung with me.
Yeah, that's basically what happened.
You believe this woman just showed up at a clinic with a lung in an igloo cooler or something and said, I need a lung transplant, and I got the lung, and this clinic just had a transplant team just happened to be standing by in Mazatlan?
No, the doctor was the one that put the whole thing together.
Shockingly, it didn't take. So Josefina decides to store the lung.
She stored it for about 2 weeks.
Like at the house?
No, not at the house.
Where'd she store it?
At the clinic right there, and that's what happened.
And then she finds another lung, and you help her pay for the second lung and transplant. So she says, okay, now I got an extra lung.
Yeah.
So she sells it.
Right.
So that's when they swap the ranch.
Yeah.
So don't have the cash,
Yeah,
but I've got a ranch I'll trade you for. The ranch worth $1 million.
that's right.
But despite the new lung, she's too sick to sell the ranch.
Well, she was too sick to do right immediately, yeah.
She's also had brain cancer
Yes,
5 times?
7 times.
7 times. 7 brain cancers.
She survived that.
And then in 2002, the lung recipient died.
Mm-hmm. She gave it back to her.
Josefina sells a lung on the black market for $2.7 million.
2.2.
2.2 million bucks. But she says she can't pay you back.
She got the money, and the money went into a bank, and it's there, frozen.
Why is it frozen?
Because of the amount of money. It's too much money.
I didn't know you could have too much money. She has too much money. You have a computer, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever check on these sort of things?
Yeah.
Because just before I walked over this morning, I just thought, you know what? I think I'll just Google up and see what a lung costs on the black market.
And what'd you find?
In China, you can get one for an average of about $23,000. In Europe, it was even less. In Mexico, they didn't really have much of a selection.
Yeah, I know.
I even looked on eBay. And they just didn't have anything. Maurice's family says he doesn't even remember the names of people they claim he's victimized. Well, but I have a list, and we're going to see what his thoughts and feelings are about this. We'll be right back. This wasn't the only relationship you had in Mexico, right?
No.
Do you have a second family?
It was a miserable time in our family.
It hurt. It wasn't fun to realize that.
Embarrassed, mad, just disappointed.
When we found out that my mom knew, it felt like an enormous betrayal.
This wasn't the only relationship you had in Mexico, right?
No.
Do you have a second family in Mexico?
I've got one in Ensenada.
A daughter?
19-year-old.
And did you raise her?
No.
Have you been supporting her?
Yeah.
So you've been paying money there and to Josefina?
Yeah. I decided that 2 weeks ago I was going to cut it off completely and not have any contact with her.
But that's, I mean, that's not
that's
not entirely true.
We
I mean,
took his
we
phone
took his
away.
phone, so he couldn't call her. And he actually left my house twice trying to go call her, like walk to a gas station.
I went to the bank to get the money that had come in.
That was a
And what were you
separate
going to do with that money?
Well, I was going to give it to my wife.
No, that's
No,
not true
you
at all.
weren't.
No,
what
that's
you
not
said.
true at all. I had to have him hand it over to me so I could count it, and he was not going to give any of it to my mother.
Look, if we have any hope here, one thing we got to do is be just completely honest. I mean, at this point, what the hell? I mean, you got a second family in Mexico. You shipped nearly $2 million to Josefina. Wasn't your theory that they weren't going to let her out of the hospital if she didn't pay him some money?
Yeah.
You know what she told you?
Yeah,
So in Mexico, you don't pay, you don't go.
that's right.
So they keep you there.
That's right. They keep you there.
So you needed to give her money so she could get out.
That's what happened.
You do know that Mexico has universal health care, right? So she's got you and the government paying for her to go to the hospital.
Well, and she's not even actually going to have a room.
Pardon me?
She doesn't check in because she doesn't have money, so she's not actually in a hospital room.
Well, she doesn't need it. She can
I
get
know.
health
I'm
care.
just saying
They
she's
have
on like the
universal
back
healthcare.
patio.
This is the story.
This
Pardon
is
me?
the story. She's like not even in an actual room, so we can't call her to find out what room number she's in. She's out in a separate area of people who can't pay. I mean,
Even
this
though
is how
they don't
ridiculous it is. But he just makes
can't
up.
reason with
no,
him.
I mean you
It's-
can't reason with
She's
him.
in a patio room?
Yes, literally.
Is that
No, she's behind the clinic.
outdoors?
Yeah, that's outdoors. In a patio.
So patio.
And she's
It's-
cold, and she has no sweater or shoes because she's so poor.
So she's at a hospital,
Not in the hospital.
but not in the hospital. She's just sleeping next to the hospital.
Well, yeah, because the back end is enclosed. She's able to stay right there with the hope of getting the money.
And he believes this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
That's
what do you do with that?
Anything she
Okay, well, this is just an example of one money transfer service that Maurice has used to pay for this kind of explanation. It sent anywhere between $150 and $990 nearly every day for the entire year. The money transfers from just this company totaled $105,134.01. That's just from one company.
Right.
So where does he get all of this money? Well, I made a chart. This is just according to Maurice, and I'm not even sure he knows for sure. He has taken his family for $500,000. He's taken $500,000 of his own money out of his account with he and his wife. He's gotten $3,500 from one guy, $2,700 from another, $3,000 this guy, an investor, $100,000. Mexican businessman, $40,000, $2,700 to Greg, $20,000 to a friend, $12,000 from a church member, $40,000 from another church member, $60,000 from a friend, 5 strangers totaling $300,000, another stranger for $500. This one was the one at the gas station, I think. Church elder, undisclosed amount, 6 church members. All of this, and when it's all added up, that totals to $1,464,400. And that's just what we've been told.
Right, right.
There's no question that's not the bottom.
Right. No.
It is not in the realm of possibility.
Do you believe what he's telling you?
Well, I don't believe it.
Joining us now is Dr. Pat Basu. He is the Chief Medical Officer of Doctor on Demand, which is the company that Jay and I have that you've heard us talk about. Now, Dr. Basu has served as a White House Fellow. Prior to that, he served as Course Director of Health, Policy, and Economics at Stanford University. You've been listening to everything. What do you think of Josefina's claims when it comes to all of this lung manipulation? I mean, is this even remotely possible?
It's not possible at all.
Step up here, because I want to be sure that he can hear you clearly and concisely. You just take my chair here.
Sure.
Just take my chair so you can speak directly to Maurice, if you would. Maurice, this is Dr. Pat Basu.
Nice to meet you.
So, is it possible what she's telling him is true?
There is no way this story is possible. And I should maybe just clear something up, because there's this talk about the black market, which does exist. But even in that case, it is not just a box of old organs that's lying around. There is no sort of black market box where they just sit there. Whether it's legal or the black market, that transplant has to be done in this very small window, or the lung itself will perish.
Okay, so what is the chance that she could go to Veracruz, get this lung, bring it back up to some clinic, some doctor does the transfer, it doesn't take, so she takes it out, puts another one in, saves this one for 3 weeks in a cooler or something at the clinic where they keep spare body parts, apparently, for 3 weeks, and then sell it again to or swap it for a ranch or whatever. What's the chance of that happening 3 weeks later?
Yeah, Maurice, I have to tell you, the chance of that is 0. There is no single aspect of that story is possible, let alone the entire chain of events. It is just entirely not possible in any universe.
Do you believe what he's telling you?
Well, I don't believe it.
You don't believe which?
I don't believe what he's saying. It happens down in Mexico, and it's...
Yeah, you cannot revive the lung once it is dead. There is a window of 6 hours, and even in that window, by the time it's getting there, the lung is literally perishing. It cannot be revived. It cannot be reused in that capacity at all.
Well, I don't know how that happens then.
Well, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Huh?
It doesn't.
It doesn't happen.
It does.
Yeah.
I do know that the lung was 3 months in a container.
Okay, and so you think because she said that the laws of physics, the laws of science, the laws of medicine are suspended because of what she said. It just becomes true for her, but not for anybody else.
Well, I know that the lung was for 3 months until it was transferred.
The lung was outside the body for 3 months and then put back in.
It's in a container. They have some type of solution in Mexico. And they have, I know, doctor,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
This doesn't even make you think maybe she's lied to you?
No.
Okay. All right, listen, that's very important for me to hear. That's very important for me to hear. It helps me, that informs me to help inform you. Okay, next, there is one key person missing from this conversation. That's Josefina herself. I'm going to ask Maurice to give her a call after the break. Let's see if she answers from the back porch of the hospital. We'll be right back. We'll now dial the international number, and I would like to ask her a few questions if you could translate for me. We've talked a lot about Josefina, Maurice's former mistress. So I think it's time to try and add her to the conversation. So we are going to call her cell phone. We're going to now dial the international number, and I would like to ask her a few questions too, if you could translate for me.
Después del tono, grabe su mensaje. Marque la tecla gato cuando termine.
It was a message that said, you know.
Go through?
Yeah.
We'll just keep trying while we keep talking. So you don't believe Dr. Basu. We actually hired a private investigator in Mexico to learn a little bit. To learn a little bit more about Josefina, because you say she's just all alone and nobody to call but you. And you say you're helping her because she has no family. Well, actually, the private investigator did find her, and they found that her parents are still very much alive, that she has multiple siblings, and in fact, the phone that she talks to you on is actually billed to her sister, and at the same address.
I don't believe it.
He was also able to find information about Josefina's ranch. There's no property in her name at all. No ranches even located in that area in anybody's name. So the ranch she says that she's traded for is not in her name, is not in anybody else's name, and where she says the ranch exists, there are no ranches in that area at all, period, zip, zero, nada, yet no ranches.
Well, I don't know where you're getting your information.
Because yours is so reliable, right, Dad?
I mean, you can get on an airplane, you can go down there and find out. We got the address. We can walk you right up the front door and knock. You can go to this hospital, room 103. She is not there. She is not there. That was actually inside the hospital. It wasn't on the patio. It was inside the hospital. Ranch. No ranch.
No, she was only
doesn't
in.
exist. Lungs that live for more than 6 hours. Nowhere on the globe does that happen, ever, period. These are facts. These are not opinions. These are not matters of, I see it one way and you see it another, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. These are facts. How many doctors do I need to line up to tell you you can't keep a lung alive for more than 4 to 6 hours?
I don't know, because, you know, that lung is alive for 3 months.
Dad.
Yeah.
Okay, next, where do Maurice and his family go from here? Well, I'm going to tell all of these women what I think needs to happen after the break. Before we go on, earlier in the show, I asked my Twitter followers if they believe Maurice is being taken advantage of, and the results are in. 54% say yes, 46% say no. I'll tell you why I think it's 50-50, because they're focusing on him as being a perpetrator of all of you and all of these innocent people we had up here, as much as they are of him being a victim by her. I'm going to talk about you like you're not here for a minute, okay?
Go ahead.
And I mean, no disrespect, but I have to be candid about this. I've not evaluated your father, long-term or historically. All I can tell you is where I see him now. And, you know, I spent a lot of time doing this kind of thing back when I had a real job and was in private practice. Part of my training was in forensic psychology, where I was often worked as an officer of the court to make determinations of sanity, person's ability to conduct their own affairs, things of that nature. It's obvious that he has constructed a delusional system here. And when you try to crack the delusional system, the walls come up. And at that point, this person is not able to separate fantasy and reality. Okay? So those lines are blurred. I think you can go to any court in the land and get a conservatorship appointed. So he cannot get himself bankrupt, so he cannot get himself exploited further, so he cannot conduct business and take other people's money. The first thing I would like to do is offer Maurice a chance to go and have himself evaluated at the Lawless PNP Center in Dallas, to have him really looked at and see if there are neurological issues here, if there are psychological issues here that have him caught in a loop that he just can't get out of, and see if we can maybe do some things diagnostically and break that up for him. And also joining us is my really good friend, Miles Adcox. He is the owner and CEO of Onsite. And Onsite is the worldwide leader in intensive workshops and treatment for those that suffer from emotional trauma and mental health issues. Do you agree he's delusional here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you take the help that I'm offering you to get some evaluation done and focus on yourself and get some professional help with this?
Yeah.
I really think it would be helpful to you. When you finish at Onsite, I'm also going to set Maurice up with ongoing therapy after he leaves here today. You know, at Doctor On Demand, we also have an extensive network of board-certified doctor-level psychologists that can see patients on the Doctor On Demand app from the comfort of your own house. You don't have to get in the car and drive to the therapist office. It's easier, it's cheaper, and in my opinion, every bit as effective. And for those of you at home that want to, you can download the Doctor On Demand app at Google Plays or the App Store. I want to thank all of my guests today. I want to give a special thanks to Dr. Pat Basu, Dr. Lawless and the PNP Center, as well as Miles Adcock and Onsite for offering to help Maurice and the family as well. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.